So, welcome to our inaugural Careers podcast for Ryan Catholic College, a podcast that will hopefully become an insightful space for all things careers, anything and everything related. If we can find a connection, we'll talk about it to help as many people as we can. That's the wonderful thing about the careers and future pathway space. So much is relevant and so much is connected to this area that such a variety of topics can be covered. We're kicking off our first podcast with a bit of a throwback theme. We will be talking to some Ryan alumni to see where they are now, but to also have them share some of their wisdom and advice for what they've learned since leaving our college. So I would like to warmly welcome Toni Blackmore to our podcast this morning. Welcome, Toni.
Thank you, Nicole.
So, Toni, obviously you were at Ryan. Can you tell us, just a little bit about like when you graduated and what was life like back then?
So I graduated in 1989, so that's 36 years ago. Lovely time. Look, back then I would have to say that life at the school was, it was fairly new, so it was a new school, and I guess learning all the different just unpacking yourself in your education and going through the motions of, what life is like at school and a Catholic school at that. And, so it was probably back then we were all a little bit naive and just following the trends of, what we had to do to get through to school and start our working careers.
Thanks for that, but let's dig a bit deeper. Let's describe a little bit of the Toni back then. If I was meeting you back then, how would you describe yourself?
I think back then I was quite naive, both professionally and personally. I tend to quite doubt myself as a student. I wasn't very confident. My whole world transitioned what was basically sport. I played a lot of sport back then at school. So, I was quite naive to what was out in the real world, can I just say.
So if you played a lot of sport, sounds like maybe the confidence was in that sporting arena.
Absolutely, 100%.
But did you find then that, and I think, for all of us in our younger years, we can have confidence in certain areas, but then in these others, it's lacking or it's not there at all. So would you say that there was other parts where it was just not present?
And it was academically. So I was not confident academically at all, but loved the social networking that I got at school and loved the sport because, of course, there was that social networking through my sport and my teammates and my friends at school, but then I had friends outside of the school, so they were part of my my sporting network as well. So I had confidence in that, but academically I lacked a lot of confidence.
And isn't it interesting, as when we're younger, we can't transition over, some of those areas of our life to go, well, if I'm good in that space or there are some great skills that I've got that I can move those into other parts of my life. Obviously when we're younger, we find it a little bit difficult to see that some of that is very transferable and it can show in other parts of our life.
And that's when leaving school was actually quite difficult for me because I found that network that I had at school, I thought, oh gosh, I'm not going to have that same network when I leave. I'm going out into the real world now, and I wasn't so confident in that space. So it was quite daunting leaving school and then going into the workforce.
Particularly if you can have a mindset where it's like, these are all the great skills I have and they're in the sporting arena.
Yep.
But I'm not moving into that.
Correct.
I'm not moving into that space right now. So we can easily say to ourselves, but I don't have those skills then for this next part.
Yep.
So that was Toni back then. What about now? How would you describe yourself now?
I would probably say I'm a lot more confident. However, I still sometimes doubt myself. But I guess, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I must admit, I wish the Toni back then had the ability to take herself out of her comfort zone and to try new things, but be okay to fail That's probably the one thing that I'm okay with and know more about now is it's okay to fail. It's all right to try something. It's better off to fail and have tried something than to not have tried it at all. So I'd like to think that maybe the Toni today is a little bit more confident in that space and taking myself out of my comfort zone. Although there is still that little hint that, it's difficult, but taking those risks are worth it.
Absolutely. And I think there are a couple of areas that, I try and instill in our students here around that, you can only make the best decision that you can in this moment,
Yeah, that's right.
and what is that first pathway that you want to explore when you leave school? It's not about the right one, the wrong one. And hindsight is a wonderful thing, but we need to know that we were making the best decision we could back then. So we can't be down on ourselves about that. And that, failure is a part of life, and it's what actually encourages us to learn and to grow and to enhance what we're doing and to change our skill set or move in a different direction. It all has purpose and it all has meaning. We just, don't always know it at the time. So, Toni, when you look back to like year 11 and 12, what were you thinking in terms of your future? A pathway to try, a possible career? What were your thoughts in those senior years?
I actually wanted to join the police force when I first left school, but it wasn't really seen as a profession suited for women back then. And because I lacked that confidence academically, I knew I wasn't going to university. So I knew I just had to get a job. So to me, and when I finished school, it was quite clear that, my parents had sort of said to me, you're either learning or you're earning. So the big push was get out and get a job. So I went straight into retail. So, and I guess that was my niche, even though back then I didn't realise it. I was always really good at talking to people I didn't know. So I was really good at that conversation and selling, and I guess that's the key thing for when you're in retail. But I found I was really good at talking to people I didn't know. So that's how I got mainly into the retail profession, and I was in that for about 10 years. But I just knew I felt I couldn't go to university. I wish I did, but I felt I couldn't do it.
So it sounds like senior was actually a bit of a mixed bag. There was a little bit there of taking some options off the table because you just felt that you couldn't do it, that it wasn't for you because of that lacking in confidence. The police at the time, a different era for that.
It was, yeah.
But
that's
also
right.
probably to that confidence of not being able to push that a little bit more to see, well, could I? Is that possible? Let's give it a go.
That's right.
But at the same time, also being able to see your strengths. You could see that communication was a strength area for you, and you pursued that, which that's really great insight to be able to say that about yourself and then match a pathway to that.
Yeah.
But what about careers education? Because I know when we're obviously in a bit of the same era of being at school. What was careers education like for you back then?
So I felt it was quite limited compared to what it is today. However, work experience was compulsory back then. So, and it was done in term time. And I felt as though those opportunities were really, really good back then. I got to experience 2 different industries when I did work experience. One was in retail, but the other one was in an administrative type role. And strangely enough, that's pretty much where I've ended up and it was from back then because I didn't realise how much that was sort of where my focus was going to be. I just always thought, oh, well, I'll just sell for the rest of my life. But, yeah, it was really good to have that opportunity to go, you know what, that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. So I think that, because it was compulsory, okay, it's not so compulsory today, but it was really good to sort of then be forced to be out of your comfort zone and take on those opportunities that we got to have back then. That was probably the most in terms of careers I got out of that. And then there was always, again, a push for kind of university again back then as well. So, a good portion of my cohort went to university, and it was teaching back then. That was a really big push back when I graduated.
Yeah, it's funny. I would say that my situation is very similar. That when I look back at careers education, obviously we've learnt a lot, and we know how important that is in a school system, particularly in secondary. But when I look back, it was, I think, a teacher who obviously was just given that role as a little bit of a part-time gig. We'll do this on the side. But I really cannot remember any particular strategy around that. I think it was just more, this person is there if you want to go and have a chat with them. I don't believe I ever did. I don't remember that. And I don't remember it being too visual in the school. And what that led to, obviously, was also when you had, I knew it was university study for me that I wanted to do. But I looked at my subjects that I did well in and just made the connection of, it must be, I really enjoyed economics. I really enjoyed accounting. And things like that. And I'm like, that must be it. It must be dual commerce, economics degree. Right, that's it. And then it was a big shock, in second year when I got there and realised that in accounting I never wanted to see a ledger to trial balance again in my life. And, then it's the whole existential crisis of what is this supposed to be. So, I think definitely careers education has come a long way, thankfully, and there's still a long way to go. There's still so much more we can do, and we will get there with that. But, it's a work in progress. And, again, work experience. We talk to the students all the time here about the importance of work experience and taking that step and being outside their comfort zone and having a go in an area they're contemplating to either cement it as an option or take it off the list, and both of them are equally as important as the other. Mine was law, Back in grade 11, I was actually contemplating law, and it was my work experience that made me go, nope, I don't, because I'd always been quite justice orientated. But then I realised that sometimes, justice doesn't always prevail.
I would agree.
I knew that I would struggle with that. So that was really helpful in me going, Nicole, it's not actually law. That's not the pathway for you. So then what made you decide on you said it was definitely you wanted communication. What was it that made you decide retail? What was there any defining factor for retail?
No, I guess it was just the opportunity that came my way. And of course, back then we didn't have social media, so we had the newspaper. And on Saturday mornings you had all the jobs that listed that were available. And I was just extremely lucky to have been given the opportunity for the company that I worked for on my first go. And again, it was probably, my mother was quite pushy, and not pushy, that's not the right word, but she was saying, you need to either learn or you need to earn. You need to do it straight away. And so straight out of school, I applied for jobs that Saturday morning. I sat down with my pen and paper and I wrote my resume and I wrote off an application letter to apply for a job. And then I was just, very, very fortunate to get the company that I got to work with. And then, it just went from there. So
probably some luck in there, but probably also a skill set, that you were showing, and they could identify in you, but you probably weren't quite sure of yourself at that point in time.
That's
so
right.
Give us a little bit of a roundup too of what's happened from those first early years. Where has your career taken you and what different things have you done?
So I've worn a lot of different hats. I've done, like I said, I did retail for a good portion of that. And then, and I must admit with that gave me customer service, teamwork, and adaptability within that industry. And, of course, I'd been there for a little while, so I thought I might try something a little bit new. So I applied for some other different jobs, and I was very, very fortunate to then get into admin on the private sector. And then I was very fortunate to go into the government sector, which I worked for a while. And in between, I became a mum. So when I transitioned into that role, that was something that my working career, I was looking for something that was flexible, that allowed me to still do the things that I needed to do as a mother, but still gave me a career path that I enjoyed, and that was in administration. So, yeah. And then as my children got older, I was able to look for different types of jobs that sort of challenged me a little bit more and gave me, I guess, a little bit more self-satisfaction within myself, because my kids were getting older and maybe didn't rely on me to be at school with them every 5 minutes reading books. It gave me the opportunity to then sort of say, okay, now what's for me? What can I transition into?
And look, I think you've hit on a really important point there that, at different times in our life, that priority list, different things sit at the top, and there's different things that we're looking for that we need at that point in time. And sometimes it's about flexibility. Sometimes it's about, I need adaptability, or I need, to be challenged in these certain areas. But to know that journey that we're thinking of at the beginning of our life, after school, it can take so many twists and turns because that list changes as we get older and different things occur in our life, definitely.
That's right.
And what about the most wonderful place that you work now? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I'm so fortunate to be back where it all started. So I've been at Ryan now for 4 years, and I must admit I really, really enjoy that community. I love working with the kids, but it's mind-blowing because it's taken me back to my early years. But yeah, I've got a great bunch of people that I work with and that I support in my role. And I'm loving being back at Ryan Catholic College.
And I think it's there's something really really great about coming full circle in some of the aspects of our life, but also to, testament to, a working environment that you obviously love and enjoy, and that says a lot that, you were here at school and you've come back to it and you're loving life here in a new phase and in a new role and identifying in a new way.
Again, I was quite fortunate that both my girls in their later graduating years were still here when I worked. So it was really quite nice to watch them as a staff member, but also as a parent, graduate through the school. So that was really nice to be here and be a part of their journey, whilst they were a big part of my journey at the school as well. So, that was great.
Yeah, no, I think that's, a really lovely insight, because it is something really, really special. I've had that experience, and Malcolm, who's in the room with us as well, has had that experience, and it's, a unique insight into our children's lives if we can be in that space a little bit with them, giving them their, their time and their space. But yeah, definitely, it's a different insight that we get, and we're very lucky for it. So, what do you know about yourself now, Toni? With all of that journey, with all that you've learned, and we can tell there's been a lot of learning in there about yourself in personally, but also in terms of a career and your future and what you want to be achieving and what you want to be experiencing. What do you know about yourself now that you didn't know back then?
I guess I didn't realise how resilient I was. Even though I didn't take the path of university, I've got so many more transferable skills that that you just don't realise that you've got hidden in you. Way more resilient than I ever thought I'd ever be. That also comes with a very long working history, all the different things that I've done, like I said, the different hats that I've worn. And I've been very fortunate with the different industries that I've worked with, where I've been taken out of very much so my comfort zone. I've worked in flood relief, I've worked in aged care, I've worked in sporting industries, right? And it's just they're all different, but they're all share the same resilience, and everything's transferable that you do. Every skill that you learn is transferable to no matter what industry that you work in. So it's nice to know that, okay, I didn't go to university, but I have got transferable skills that I can take with me. And even as being a mum, there are skills there that you learn, and social skills that you learn. They are incredibly important. And being able to share a part of yourself is, those skills are so important to have.
And I think, again, you've hit on a really great point there, that sometimes too, we've got to get out of that mindset a little bit, haven't we, of, it's an engineering pathway, or it's a plumbing pathway, or whatever. It's about those skills that we have, and those ones that rise to the top, the ones that are our top 5 almost, that go, those top 5 skills that we just keep honing in on time after time. What are the pathways that match with that really, really well?
Yeah.
And I think even for me, even just the last few years of being in the role of careers advisor, I've had a light bulb moment of, I always thought, yeah, Nicole, you moved away, from accounting and economics, even though I loved economics, can I say. You moved away from that because you wanted a helping profession. And for a long time now, 25 plus years, I was always like, yeah, it's a helping profession. I wanted to be a helper. It's only in the last few years that I've gone, yep, I did want to be in a helping profession. I do want to help. But actually what sits at number 1 is I'm a problem solver. And that's what drives me, actually.
Yep.
And that has probably been what's driven a lot of my pathways without even knowing it. I didn't realise it was about problem solving.
Yep.
I always thought it was around helping.
Yep.
So, yeah, we do learn a lot in that space as we go forward. What about some areas that you've changed in?
I guess I think that I'm more happier to try new things. I guess back then I felt I was forced to try different things based on what other people thought was best for me. And I guess now I have that ability to sort of hone in on the things that I enjoy and what will give me more great satisfaction, and be able to take myself out of the comfort zone and walk into that different world. I
Sort of like when I asked you to do this podcast.
absolutely can't believe I agreed to it. But yes.
That was like you going, yeah, of course, I'd love to do that, Nicole, because I just want to get out of my comfort zone and I know I'll be brilliant.
I must admit, if there's anything I can take from my years is allowing myself to take a little bit of credit. I got here because I got here. Yes, I've had some amazing people around me help me through the transition to get through to where I am today, but it's okay to accept that I played a huge role in that.
And it's okay to pat ourselves on the back and say, good job, that was well done.
That's all right.
Yeah. And you would do that after this podcast too.
Absolutely.
So, Toni, I want to thank you because, it's interesting. Just in those last 5 or 10 minutes, I feel like I know you so differently to what I've known you over a few years now. So thank you, because I know that's a personal journey too. It's not just about a career, and it's not just about some jobs we've had. That's a personal journey for you, and there was a lot of learning in there and changing or adapting or, being able to acknowledge the skills that were there right from the outset that maybe confidence stopped you from seeing at different times. So I just want to thank you for all of that. Thank you for sharing, and particularly thank you for being on our first podcast. And, yeah, I wish you well in the future, but, yeah, thank you for sharing those insights with all of our listeners today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Well, that brings us to the end of our first podcast. Toni, I want to thank you so much for all that you've shared with us today. I know that that's obviously, you're talking about your career, you're talking about, pathways that you've gone down and different things that you've experienced, but it's also a very personal journey because there's a lot of yourself in there that you've talked about. So thank you very, very much. I know that you're a little bit nervous today, but you were brilliant. And, I'm sure that our listeners will really, really appreciate all that you've shared as well. So, next time on the podcast, we're keeping up with the alumni theme. We are bringing back into the studio, back into Ryan Catholic College, Liam Phelps. Now, Liam has been gone a little while from Ryan, not as long as Toni, but we want him to come back in. We want him to talk about where he was at the end of school, what journey he started as soon as he left, and what he's been doing over the last few years. So we look forward to next time catching up with Liam and seeing what's been happening in his world. Thanks for listening.